You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is July 31st, 2024, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And so a quick show note for today. We had planned to do a show on Liberland, but we had some technical difficulties with the guests, so we'll see if we can get that one rescheduled. But today we're going to talk about some topics that we've kind of let drop a little bit. And so one is my roads. So talk about roads and borders. So that's kind of sort of connected stuff. So we'll get into that. But before we do, let me introduce you to the rest of the panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our invisible hand becoming a very visible hand today, James Just. And he is also wears the hat of the Sacramento County Libertarian Party chair. So we have an official, some official LP cred today. And in our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. My name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So we always start out with a Liberty quote, and so today what we have pulled up is somebody that's conspicuously absent from our quotes in the past, and that is Murray Rothbard. So he's kind of big in the Austrian economics movement, and I think kind of big with anarcho-capitalists as well, quite a bit. But he said, I think this quote really nails it on the head. I guess the whole issue of morality, you can't really have morality unless you have freedom. And that's what he says here. There can be no truly moral choice unless that choice is made in freedom. So what do you guys think about that quote? I mean, I think it's a fabulous quote.
Well, yeah, if you're having a gun held to your head and you're given, either your signature or your brains is going to be on that paper, that's not a moral choice. You're under duress. So any of these other kinds of forced things that government does all the time, for example, taxes. I mean, at least income tax wouldn't be so bad if it was just sales tax. It would be a little more choice involved. But anyway, stuff like that. Yeah, there's no true choice. It's just it's forced upon you. So that's really not a choice.
Or if you've limited your choices to two, then it's not really a choice, right?
Yeah, two bad ones.
Yeah, or even three bad choices. If all you've got is bad choices, and I wouldn't choose either one of those, but those are the only choices you have. How much choice do you really have?
Not much.
Yeah, if you're not actually free, then you don't know what you would have actually done.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Well, one of the things I like about it too is he brings up the morality issue too, and a lot of people, they imagine that certain things like charity and other things just can't happen without government, and I think that's one of the things that you can sort of tease out of this quote is the idea of giving to charity. It has nothing to do with morality. If you have a gun pointed at your head, a choice for charity is a moral choice. It's something where you make the opportunity cost of deciding that something worth doing and reaching into your own pocket. And I think a lot of people who I think stick with who are really married to the state system, they can't imagine sort of a world where charity is addressed without it going through government. You're just curious if you guys have any thoughts on that.
Well, how does charity go through government? If it's charity, it means you're giving freely. Well, how does it go through government? What do you mean?
Well, what they're afraid of is the charity not going where they think it should go. That's what they're really afraid of. It's not that they don't think charity would happen. They know it would happen. It just wouldn't happen where they wanted it. Right? Yeah. They are the ones. They are the moral authority. They are the ones who know where charity should go. So therefore, they create the programs, and they'll take money from your pocket. And so they make sure the charity goes where they want it to go, not where it necessarily should go based upon the wants, needs, and the desires of the members of the local larger community. Right?
Yeah. Well, and that kind of hits what Tim was just saying too. The idea, is it really charity? Well, yeah. I mean, if they're pointing a gun at you, it's not charity. It's robbery.
Right.
Yeah. Plus, a lot of these people want that charity to go. They don't want to give it though. They want to take it from a rich guy. The rich guy can fund, and then it goes to the charity of their choice. So they get to control, the charity, where the money goes, and the fact that they don't have to spend the money themselves. So, yeah, I mean, but that's not charity. I mean, there's no, that's maybe that's a government program. It's a yeah, it's some kind of social program, but it's certainly not charity.
Well, it is to them, though, Tim. That's the difference, right?
Okay. They have a funny idea of what charity is.
Well, yes, they do. Yes, they do.
One of the key aspects too of when charity is real, there's usually a thank you on the other end as well, right? So I mean, if you reach into your pocket to help somebody, a lot of times there's a thank you, and that kind of is the virtuous circle, right? But that doesn't exist when the government is involved, right? I mean, it's just like the money just sort of comes out of your pocket. Whoever's getting it, they really got nobody to thank, and it's just happens, right? So there's not really much feedback.
Yeah. This is where I'd like to plug the Buy Nothing programs that they have in all communities. You guys have one or a number of them in your neighborhoods where you get to give stuff that you don't need anymore, want anymore. It could be anything from food to an old microwave. I gave away an old microwave that was in really great shape, worked fine. I just don't need it, and so you give this stuff away, and people really appreciate it, and you get to see the people, and they come over there to pick it up, and you're giving it away for free. And then if you want something, like we got a couple of lounge chairs for the backyard, that they're like the kind you can lay out on in the sun yourself and all that. So we got those for free, and they just post it, be out in front of their house or something. You just go pick it up.
And Tim, what was that program called?
It's Buy Nothing. It's
okay.
And they're local. I think you'd have to just Google Buy Nothing in Sacramento or San Diego or Roseville or wherever, and then you can get rid of stuff you don't want, and you feel good about it, and the people are like really appreciative, and they'll even write. It's all done with an app. And you can take pictures of it and you post it on there, and it's kind of like selling it, but you're selling it for nothing. So
like a voluntary organization of people trying to help one another.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. And it gives tremendous value. Obviously, we've just got so many things we got for free. I can't think of the other thing that I got was, the toaster. We got this toaster in the box, brand new, never been used. Little toaster, just perfect for my little kitchen. And for free. So you didn't want it, didn't need it. Hey, I needed it, and I've been using it ever since.
Kept it out of a landfill, right? There's
Yeah, that's another thing too. Yeah. Stuff out of the landfill. You have extra fruit off your tree. You don't know what to do. We put it in a thing out in front of the house and put a sign on it, put it on Buy Nothing. We have people driving all over the place, and they come over and they pick up all they want, all the apples they want. Boom, off they go, and they're real appreciative.
Well, on that note, we've just discussed how government really doesn't handle charity very well, or do charity very well.
No.
Let's talk about something else that the government, at least in Oakland, is really struggling with, and that's my roads. This is one of the big cries for libertarians, where people come at you and say, well, if not for government, who would fix the roads? And exactly, yeah. And it is a kind of a tough issue because, you do have this thing that joins a lot of properties together. So it is kind of a challenging thing to think about. And there certainly are libertarians who've, got ideas on that. But let's look at a little bit about how government is handling the roads in Oakland. And I actually, there's a story on it here. And James, maybe you could share the story. So it says Oakland streets left unpaved for weeks. This was back in June. Unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to follow up yet to figure out if they ever got it done. But I mean, this was going on for several months. Apparently the construction crews were literally afraid for their lives. And we actually have a video segment on this as well. So James, could you play the video segment, My Roads?
Colorado's Drive in East Oakland has been a rocky, uneven mess for weeks. Nearby streets are filled with giant potholes that look like craters, and cars are covered with dust. There are several signs posted citing upcoming construction, but neighbors say there's been no sign of any work since early May.
The city of Oakland is neglecting our communities around here.
Oakland Public Works confirmed to KTVU that 2 separate safety incidents involving workers on this project forced the contractor to pull out in May. One worker who told a driver to move his car for paving purposes had a gun pulled on him. Another was hit by a car. Maya, who didn't want to show her face on camera, said it's been difficult to get any answers from the city. Sherry Angarano also tried to get answers from Oakland officials.
I spoke to the project manager that was listed on the public notice I received in March. He told me that the contractor suspended all work due to an unsafe work environment, and they would not continue work until the city of Oakland guaranteed a safe work environment.
So
this is a private contractor?
yeah, I think it's a contractor that the city hires, so they go through a bidding process or something like that. But I mean, holy cow, I mean, the city can't even have cover conditions safe enough that somebody will do the work of filling in the roads there in Oakland. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, this is like one of the few defenses that a lot of people fall to for government. is say, who else is going to build the roads if not government?
Well, one, it's not even the government building the roads, right? They just take your money and hand it out to somebody else. You could actually, as a street, could do that on your own, right? You don't actually need the government to do it. Theoretically, if your road's bad enough, you go up and down. You organize it. I mean, that's how in the olden days people got cable into their neighborhoods, right? Or their phone came into the neighborhoods. It wasn't the city that did it. You went out, you gathered the $20,000 from all your neighbors to get the neighborhood brought in, the cable brought in, and then they would hook you all up. But it's not. These aren't novel solutions, right? We've done it before. My roads. Who will build it? The people who need it to be built the most. Be it a miner, be it smugglers, be it whatever, the people who need it the most will be the ones to build the road.
Yeah, exactly. They're not going to sit around twiddling their thumbs going, golly, we want to go from point A to point B and there's no roads there. What do we do? Oh my God. There's nothing we can do. I mean, we can't build a road. No, we can't do that. We don't have government. We need it organized. But, and then the flip side is you want to have standards. You want to have standards of, how thick is it? Is it going to be able to withstand, a certain weight of vehicle on there and so on? How well built is it? How dense is it? So on and so forth. So I see that it's good to have standards. So maybe you could have, the private sector build it using the private contractors that the city is hiring now. And but they have to go by the standards. So you would hire people that are familiar with the standards and would build it to those standards. And then it could be inspected by a city inspector after the work is done. Okay, so it was paid for by the local people that wanted that section of road, and it was provided by the local private companies, and then it was inspected by the government as, okay, this is up to snuff. It's like they inspect houses being built, right?
Yeah, they do a terrible job at it.
And they do a terrible job at that, yeah.
You'd be far better off having insurance companies actually do the inspections and create the standards. right?
Well,
Yeah.
And James, that's actually sort of what really happens in the real world. If we eliminate government from the process, we might not even notice in some cases, because actually these building code and other stuff like that, those were actually started by insurance companies. They, like, for instance, things like the fire code and stuff like that. You actually had groups like Underwriters Laboratory, insurance companies wanted to set standards so that they could be sure if we're insuring something, we want to make sure that things are actually being built to some kind of standard. Otherwise, how can we insure anything? We have no idea what the risk is. So they actually funded labs so that they could develop standards, and sort of government kind of got in on that, but government didn't orchestrate it, and so fire marshals and others, they're involved in the process. They oftentimes they sit on some of these UL standards boards, but there's other standards organizations too. And they develop these, and then the government forces you to use those standards. That's the way it is now. So that's how government sort of jumps in front and leads the parade. They're compelling you to use the standards that are developed in these processes, but they didn't really do it. And I think that's one of the things a lot of people don't realize is they imagine government is just dreaming up all these ways to keep them safe. In reality, government has to rely on people outside of government to figure a lot of this stuff out.
Yeah. Yeah, because they're not going to do it.
Yeah. Well, another aspect of this too, and I was curious about, because it's not necessarily just how to build a road, but part of it is, I think some people are worried that there might be a monopoly on the roads, right? I mean, if let's say you had a house and suddenly some guy owns all the streets right around your house, now maybe you're at his, I guess, at his mercy on being able to get out of your house, I guess, and get on the road and go somewhere, because obviously these would most likely be toll roads if they're private roads. So I'm not 100% sure of what all the different ways are. I imagine that a lot of this is competition with roads, agreements that would be made ahead of time. But what do you guys think about that? Is this something to worry about, the idea that you may have some horrible monopolist who runs in and tries to just gouge everybody who's attached to his road?
Well, yeah, but we have that now. They close our roads anytime they want. They can lock us in our houses anytime they want by closing the roads, right? It's not that difficult. They can actually do that now. And if you want to use the roads, guess what? You're paying a use tax, whether it's to register your car, whether it's to buy gas for your car or put electricity in your car or whatever it is, you're paying for it anyway. So it already exists. It's just who's the one doing it is the actual question, and what exact form it takes. A communal road, a road that was built and paid for by the community, is property of that community. So they can say people who live in LA can't use our roads, but the people who own that road, who built that road, they all would have use for it. So it's really dependent upon that, right? That initial agreement.
Yeah. So if currently I'm some 72-year-old guy that's retired and not driving very much, I don't have to go to work anymore, and I own this house and I'm paying property taxes on it. Those property taxes are being used in part to pay for the building and maintenance of the roads, right? And along with the gas taxes and others. And so if I'm not using it, then I'm paying for something I'm not using. But in a toll situation, especially nowadays, where they could have your car monitor, you could monitor it with an app, and you could set everything up to where as you drove, you would pay whatever tolls it was for driving on that road. Then you're paying as you use it. So people that don't use it don't have to pay for it. And people that are using it are the ones that are actually using it, getting some benefit from it, and they can pay for it. I don't know. If we went that way. Tolls.
Well, one of the other issues too with being worried about price gougers and all that, who's the biggest price gouger of all? It's the government. I mean, if the government literally has a monopoly on a service and they tell you, okay, you're paying more taxes, well, you're paying more taxes. I mean, there's no way around it, right? I mean, think about even your garbage. A lot of times that's kind of similar to the roads too, in a way. And they are saying that, hey, look, everybody is got to get their garbage picked up by this one carrier. Maybe the government runs it, maybe they don't. But then the government sets the rate. And if the government decides they're going to charge more money for it, they're charging more money for it. I mean, there's no way out of it. So, yeah, it just seems to me like that price gouger argument really isn't solved by going to government.
No, it's just a monopoly by a different boot, right? It's no different. So.
Yeah. Well, I think the bigger question here with this case of the roads isn't so much that who actually knows how to build it. Yeah, you kind of touched on that earlier, I think, on this, Jane. But the idea that why is it that the government, even its bigger justification, is keeping everybody safe, having property rights laws such that everybody can at least feel like there's some law and order. Well, apparently that's the problem here in Oakland. And Jane, maybe you could bring up the visual here. Maybe one of the reasons why is because their mayor is under FBI investigation. So apparently this is one of those wokester mayors where apparently she's worried about everything other than the keeping some law and order in her town, which, for a libertarian, I mean, it's not like I want the government out there creating all kinds of laws, but, if there is any justification for government at all, it has to be is essentially defining and defending property rights. And apparently they can't even do that well enough in Oakland so that roads can be built and maintained. So I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on these sort of criminal politicians running a lot of these places?
Well, it doesn't surprise me that we have criminal politicians in one-party cities, right? It's when you have a political machine city, you end up with corrupt politicians, and yeah, you've got corrupt politicians. Whether it's New York, Chicago, Oakland, San Francisco, LA, they're just chock full of corrupt politicians. So.
I don't know why. Maybe the Oakland PD police department, maybe they are very busy because there's so much crime over there and they have their hands full of crime. But I don't know why they couldn't have taken one patrol car and move it over to the construction site and have them oversee the safety of these guys that are being having guns pointed at them and stuff. But I don't know. That's maybe too simplistic, right? Some reason, got to be a reason why that can't happen.
Tim, as bad as things are in Oakland, I think maybe people would just steal the police car if it was unmanned.
They probably pulled a gun on the cop, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, you need a squad, Tim. You need a squad.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go.
And I do think they actually got that street back and done. I don't know how they do it, but I think they came up with an agreement. I think they just paid them a boatload of money and they hired their own security, but don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I do think they got it done.
So they actually had to get somebody else to provide the security too, because government couldn't do that as well.
You mean kind of like the Secret Service, where Trump is better off getting?
Yeah, I caught the story late one night, so I've probably got part of it wrong, but I do know they went back to work on the street. That much I do know. And I think it was some security deal as with some security guards there or something like that. But yeah, don't quote me on that. So because someone well pointed out that I missed some detail or was wrong on some detail or something, right? Yeah.
Well, you couldn't do any worse than the government of Oakland, James. So don't worry about it.
I'm not deliberately lying, right? I'm just getting it wrong.
Well, we've kicked around roads for a bit, but, another big issue and sort of, the roads, I guess, eventually lead to borders. And that's sort of our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. This is going to be a kind of a shorter show today. But on our Knucklehead Noise Patrol, it takes us to our southern border issue and the crisis we've been having there. And Jane, maybe I could bring up a visual here. Obviously, during the Biden administration, this has been one of those absolute fiascos where we've seen record numbers of people coming through the borders. Apparently when Trump was president, he had worked out some kind of deals with Mexico to hold people there. And at least it sort of stemmed the tide to some degree, I guess. But, with Biden's administration, it seems like there haven't hardly been any checks at all on this. And so, to the point where we've even talked about on the show before, but mayors of some of these blue cities like New York, have openly talked in their city council meetings about how this issue is destroying their cities, like Mayor Eric Adams. But anyways, here's an article from the Pew Research to talk about how bad things were. This is an article from February 2024, but at the end of 2023, they were at record highs, I guess, in border crossings. But one of the things that's led to, because in the crazy politics of where we're at in the race for 2024, Biden obviously was taking the brunt of that in the race, but he has stepped down. I mean, he hasn't left his office yet, and that's a whole nother show, I guess, on the politics going on here with who's running for president in the Democrat Party. But at the moment, it's Kamala Harris. The vice president is looking like she is the one that the Democrats are going to run against Trump. And so she is facing this issue of the border. And so one of the craziest things is when she was president, or vice president rather, although Biden may have called her president a few times, but when she was vice president, she was actually put in charge of this issue by Biden. She made her the lead person on this, and this is something where the media now, back then when they handed that to her, they often talked about how she was the border czar. Well, now they're trying to act like they never said that at all, and this is a Republican conspiracy. And so it's absolutely astounding. It's Orwellian. We seem to see this stuff all the time now with the news. We can't seem to. They're telling you don't trust your lying eyes. Well, this media watchdog group, the Media Research Center, they put together sort of a mashup of all this. And I thought it was worth showing on the show because it's not so much about this issue of whether or not Kamala was in charge of the border, which apparently she was, but the bigger issue is, can we even trust our media on stuff that they even told us certain things before, and now they're saying they never told us that? So, James, we have a KNP1, and like I said, this is something the Media Research Center put together, so maybe we could run that so people could see what we're talking about.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
So there you have it. Media literally telling us when it's inconvenient for them that they didn't tell us what they told us before. But we are just about at the end of our normal show time. So we're probably going to continue on for another 5 or 10 minutes off online. So you can check it out the rest of the show there if you're watching on public access. But otherwise, let's continue on with the show here. So yes, absolutely. The media is telling us that don't believe your lying eyes. This is all Republican conspiracy to get Kamala. And we actually do have the Biden's press conference that he gave where he himself said, hey, he didn't call her the czar, but he said he's making her the lead, which is exactly what that means, you know, in all these senses. So this is the White House, I guess, minutes, from their briefing room. And you can see here, he absolutely says it's not her full responsibility, but she's leading the effort because I think the best thing to do is put someone who kind of blathers on. But we actually have a video clip of this, and I actually had to speed it up because Biden talks so slow. It's kind of why he's out of it by now. So he'll seem a little more lively than he actually is. But James, could you play this KNP2? That actually shows where he gave Kamala Harris and she accepted the job of taking the lead at the border.
He also announced that Vice President Harris will be leading diplomatic efforts to address migration issues.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle. and the countries that help, we're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to. It's not her full responsibility and job, but she's leading the effort, because I think the best thing to do is to put someone who, when he or she speaks, they don't have to wonder about, is that where the president is? When she speaks for me, doesn't have to check with me, she knows what she's doing, and I hope we can move this along. So, Madam Vice President, thank you. I gave you a tough job, and you're smiling, but there's no one better capable of trying to organize this.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, and for having the confidence in me.
So that was from 2021, and there she is taking that lead position. And like I said, I had to speed that up to 1.3 just to make it watchable. But what do you guys think? I mean, this is, kind of insane. Not only is it an issue of how bad of a job, and how the border plays in the election, but just the idea that the media just keeps getting caught lying to us. What do you guys think about all this?
I have never understood the media's obsession with calling people who lead some task czar. I've never gotten it in my whole entire life. I'm 4 years old, 5 years, whatever the heck that is now. And I've never understood this obsession with czar. What are these people obsessed with Russia for? With this old Russian state? I don't get it. They call everything czar. Czar is just a dictator. So anyway, was she appointed border czar? Well, technically no, but the media did label her that, right? So if the media labeled her that, it is not out of bounds for Trump and his supporters to call her that. The media slapped the label on her. Yeah, she got to live with it.
Yeah, that's I've never understood that czar thing too. It's like trying to emulate Mother Russia, I guess. Which is probably the most honest thing that they actually talk about. They're actually playing. They're showing their hand there when they talk like that. Yeah, it's crazy and un-American. But hey, what do I know? So
yeah, it's so bizarre. It is just bizarre that we call things czar. Yeah.
I can't wait till they whitewash her her stuff that she did as Attorney General. Oh my God, this stuff they have there. I mean, the Republicans, if they can't capitalize on that, I don't know. I mean, not that it will probably change anybody's vote, but I mean, it might. Maybe some independent, somebody.
Well, they'll just ignore it, Tim. We know what the media will do. They'll just ignore it.
Yeah, you're right. They'll ignore it, but it's up to the Republicans to put it right in front and center.
Yeah, it is kind of funny how a lot of these people who are saying it's going to be the end of democracy if Trump gets elected love throwing that term around czar. They're saying they just love the idea of somebody in charge being their czar. So
they also like to change the rules so a guy like RFK can't become, can't be in the Democratic mix. They love democracy so much they're going to make sure they keep people like him out.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. Yeah.
Well, it is funny to see Pravda shying away from the term czar. that's where we're at, right? Because the media is showing its hand that I think that is really the most alarming thing about all this. I mean, we've seen all the lies that we've had thrown at us through COVID, about lockdowns, about mask efficacy, all kinds of stuff that, people have just they've said one thing, they say the other, and they just act like they didn't say it. And it does make me wonder, how much longer can we be a country if we literally have two different realities? And if this media is really, it's like that they're just a mouthpiece for power. Yeah, in fact,
the reason it's dying, Jason, that's the good thing. There's a reason that old media is dying.
Yeah.
That is a place for optimism, but there's also the place for pessimism. Is like how many people buy all this stuff. They're told one thing and then they're told the opposite thing, and they go, "Oh, okay, this is the new thing. I guess okay, cool. Okay, what else do you want me to do? Just take me to your leader. Tell me what to do," and they'll do it. And there's so many people like that. Whether you have new media or old media, they just squander their decision-making capabilities completely. Blows.
Yeah. Sadly, Tim, we train generations to sit down, shut up, and do what the person at the front of the room told you to do.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Surrounded by images of great presidents of the past.
Yeah.
Well, years ago, it did seem like, when the media lied to us, it was much more subtly and it was more about lies of omission. But I do feel like what we're seeing now is a bit scary, because we're seeing them just sort of lie to us in real time. And it's very unsettling, to say the least.
I don't know if it's that different, Jason. Give me a picture, I'll give you a war.
Yeah.
I don't know how different it is, man. I just don't know. It's just more obvious because there's more of it. I think, it hits us all the time now rather than once a day. Yeah, I don't know, maybe.
Okay. Well, I think we've just about come to the end of our show today. And I guess I did want to give a shout out to some of the guests we have coming up as well. We've had, unfortunately, last week we had some technical difficulties with having Jay Bieber on the show, and that's of the National Motorists Association. And that was sort of on our end, that technical difficulty. So we're, looking forward to having him come in on the 21st, on August 21st. But next week, we have George Maurer, and he is the author of Critical Race Theory in Your School and How to Fight Back. So we're excited to have him next week on the show. And the week after that, we're going to have Thomas Sheedy of Atheists for Liberty. So he's going to talk about, sort of the challenges of fighting for liberty in the secular movement. So that's got us a little bit excited. And then we're going to have at the end of the month, on the 26th, Twyla Brace, the president of the Citizens Council for Health Reform, is going to be on. And so she's going to talk to us about a lot of issues of privacy out there in the medical system and how we can really get some medical reform that makes sense, for liberty. So we're really excited to have her come in then. And in September, we have Chase Oliver and Mike Termott coming on separate shows. So we're going to get to hear from them both about their run for the presidency as libertarians this year. So we're definitely excited to have them back then. So that's sort of our lineup coming up, and we've got more people that we're trying to work in, and we'll see if we can get Tom Walls of Liberland back. He was supposed to be here tonight, but there were some technical issues that came up on his end, so we'll try and see if we can make that show work out. But otherwise, we're happy to bring all these great guests to you guys, but really this show is about trying to show you what people are doing out there to fight for liberty around the country and in your neighborhood. And we're hoping that it will get you excited or motivated to figure out what you can do and how you can be a part of all this. So until the next show, be thinking about that. How can you make a difference in your community in moving the ball for liberty? So until then, until our next show, stay tuned and stay free.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.